My name is Amara Diallo, and I dig graves for the living. Not the kind filled with bones, but the ones choked with silence. The stories looted, buried, erased. My father used to say our blood remembers what our minds forget. He was a griot in Dakar, a keeper of history sung, not written. But when the floods took him, I traded songs for shovels. Got my PhD, became an archaeologist, not the Indiana Jones type. My work was quieter, tracing the scars colonialism left in the soil, fighting to repatriate what museums called art and my people called ancestors. The Benin Bronzes were personal. My great-grandmother's journals described how British soldiers burned her village, stole the bronzes, and hanged the smiths who dared carve them. For years I hunted for one, just one, that hadn't been melted down or locked in a glass case abroad. I found it. But this isn't a story about digging, it's about theft. About a man who dressed colonialism in a tailored suit, and how I made the world watch as he unraveled. Oh, and the hacker, you'll meet him soon enough. The sun hung low over the Niger Delta, casting long shadows across the dig site like skeletal fingers. Sweat dripped down my neck as I brushed away the last layer of dirt, my heart slamming against my ribs. The soil here was stubborn, baked into clay by centuries of sun, but I'd felt it. The curve of something metal beneath my fingertips, something that didn't belong to the earth. Careful, Amara, I muttered to myself, the words swallowed by the cicada's drone. My trowel scraped gently, and then I saw it. The glint of bronze, ornate and unmistakable. A Benin plaque buried during the 1897 British raid, a relic my ancestors had died to protect. My hands shook as I lifted it, the weight of history pressing into my palms. I should have known better than to send the photo to Charles. London greeted me with a slap of cold air, the kind that seeped through my jacket and clung to my bones. After the sweltering heat of the Niger Delta, the city felt sterile, all sharp angles and polished stone. The Britannia Museum loomed ahead, its neoclassical columns gleaming like teeth. I tightened my grip on my carry-on, the linen-wrapped plaque inside feeling heavier with every step. Charles's office was a shrine to his ego. Mahogany shelves groaned under artifacts labeled acquired 1897, a year that made my stomach twist. He stood by the window, backlit by the grey sky, his tailored suit costing more than my entire dig budget. Amara, you look exhausted, he said, pouring tea into a china cup so thin it felt like a threat. Sugar? Milk? Just the truth, I said, forcing a smile. You said we'd discuss joint publishing. His laugh was smooth, rehearsed. Of course, but first let's celebrate. He gestured to the plaque now unwrapped on his desk. Do you realize what this is? The craftsmanship. Extraordinary. It belongs here where the world can admire it. I stiffened. It belongs in Nigeria. This was looted. You know that. But ownership is such a fluid concept. He sipped his tea, eyes narrowing over the rim. The anonymous donor insists on anonymity, a tragic necessity given the current political sensitivities. Donor. The word hung in the air like poison. I reached for the plaque, but his assistant, a gaunt man lingering by the door, cleared his throat. Security protocol, Dr. Diallo, Charles said, nodding to the man. We'll have it authenticated, of course, for your protection. I should have fought, should have snatched it back. But the jet lag and his syrupy politeness disarmed me. Stupid. The hotel room was too quiet. I dreamt of my father that night, his voice weaving tales of the Bronze's guardians, smiths who'd swallowed molten metal rather than let the British take their work. I woke at 3 a.m., throat raw, and reached for the plaque. Gone. My carry-on gaped open, clothes strewn like entrails. I tore the room apart, knees scraping the carpet, until I found the note slipped under the door. Regrettably, the artifact's provenance is disputed. Deepest apologies. C'est de lieu. The museum's press release hit at dawn. There it was, my plaque, centered in a glossy photo, Charles's hand resting proprietarily on the display case. A generous donation, the caption read. A testament to the Britannia's commitment to preserving global heritage. I stormed back to the museum, the plaque's absence a phantom weight in my hands. Charles's assistant blocked my path, his smile reptilian. Dr. Whittaker is indisposed. Tell him I'll go public, I hissed. I'll ruin him. Charles appeared then, flanked by security. Amara, please, he sighed as if soothing a child. This is unbecoming. You've no proof it was ever yours. He leaned closer, his cologne suffocating. And who would believe you? A bitter academic from a failed state? The words gutted me. I'd heard them before. Whispered at conferences, etched in peer reviews, but this time, they carried the weight of history. That night I scoured the internet, rage and cheap wine burning my throat. That's when I found Kofi Mensah's blog. His latest post blazed across the screen. Museums are crime scenes. Let's make them confess. I typed faster than I thought possible. I have a heist and a villain. His reply came in seconds. Meet me in Lagos. Lagos smelled of diesel and fried plantains. The streets alive with hawkers and honking danfos. I followed Kofi's directions to a crumbling building in Ebute Metta, its facade plastered with peeling posters for Hollywood films and Pentecostal revivals. A teenage boy in a Fila t-shirt nodded me toward a staircase descending into darkness. Ogo Kofi Day downstairs, he said, pocketing the naira I offered. The basement buzzed like a beehive. Neon strip lights flickered over walls lined with servers, their fans whirring in a chaotic symphony. Kofi sat at a desk cluttered with circuit boards, soldering irons, and a half-eaten bowl of jollof rice. He didn't look up when I entered, his fingers dancing across 3 keyboards at once. You're late, he said, finally spinning in his chair to face me. Up close, he was younger than I'd expected, mid-20s maybe, with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow. His gaze was sharp, probing, like he could see the fury and desperation coiled inside me. Traffic, I said, shrugging. Your blog said museums are crime scenes. Prove it! He smirked, tossing me a thumb drive. Whittaker's museum uses a system called Digital Guardian. Facial recognition, biometric locks, AI that learns patrol routes. Oh. And lasers, Star Wars shit. He pulled up a schematic on a cracked monitor, but every system has a back door, even the British Empire did. I leaned in. The blueprint showed the Britannia's exhibit hall, the plaque displayed in a bulletproof case. So we hack it? Shut it down? We don't, I do. He crossed his arms. You're the distraction. Whittaker's hosting a gala in 9 days. That's when we swap the bronze with a replica. A replica? I bristled. This isn't some toy. The patina, the engravings. Relax, Professor. He yanked open a drawer, pulling out a palm-sized Benin leopard figurine, 3D scanned from a piece in the Met, printed in resin, aged with acid, dusted with real bronze powder. He tossed it to me. The weight, the texture, it was flawless. My crew's got an artist in Ogbomozo. She'll make your plaque sing. I turned the leopard over, my throat tight. Why help me? You don't even know me. Kofi's smirk faded. He swiveled back to his screens, pulling up a news article. Lagos Museum fire destroys pre-colonial collection. Arson suspected. The photo showed charred terracotta heads, their features melted into ghosts. My grandfather carved those, he said quietly. The British took the bronzes. Our own government sold the rest. Now kids think our history started with colonization. He shut the tab violently. You want revenge? I want a reckoning. Same fight. We worked in that basement for days, surviving on caffeine and suya skewers. Kofi taught me to clone keycards using a handheld scanner. Don't drop it. The battery's hotter than pepper soup. While his contact, a chain-smoking sculptor named Funmi, crafted the replica in a nearby workshop. Check this, Funmi said one night, unveiling the plaque under a bare bulb. She'd replicated even the scratch marks from my trowel. The British stole the originals because they couldn't comprehend this artistry. Now we'll steal it back with the same tools they used to erase us. But Kofi's plan had a catch. The Digital Guardian's AI flags anomalies, he explained, circling a line of code on his screen. If the swap takes longer than 90 seconds, the system resets. Lights, alarms, everything. And if we're caught? I asked, though I already knew the answer. He grinned, all teeth. Then we become very famous. The night before the heist, Kofi hacked the museum's employee database, embedding fake IDs with our faces. Meet Clara and David, he said, flashing badges. Janitors with a passion for overtime. I stared at my photo, the pixels glitching at the edges. Will this work? Depends. He leaned back, cracking his knuckles. You ever mop a floor before? No. Good, act terrible at it. People ignore incompetence. He tossed me a USB drive shaped like a crucifix. Stick this in any terminal. It'll loop the cameras and fry the AI's brain for exactly 90 seconds. I pocketed it, my palms sweating. And after? After! He powered down his rig, the basement plunging into near darkness. After you buy me a drink, assuming we're not in Interpol custody. The museum's grand hall loomed like a cathedral of stolen gods. Marble floors gleamed under the cold gaze of spotlights, casting shadows that seemed to twitch with the ghosts of plundered relics. Kofi's voice hissed through my earpiece, sharp as static. Janitorial cart at your 3 o'clock move. I pushed the mop bucket forward, the wheels squeaking louder than my pulse. The replica plaque lay hidden beneath grimy rags, its weight a secret promise. My stolen ID badge hung around my neck, Clara Davies' maintenance. The photo pixelated just enough to blur the fury in my eyes. Kofi said camera blind spot in 10 seconds. And Amara? Breathe. You sound like a dying generator. I forced a cough, muffling a retort. The Britannia's night guards patrolled with the bored arrogance of men who'd never been robbed. But the real threat wasn't human. The Digital Guardian. Its lasers crisscrossed the plaque's display case in a glowing lattice, shifting every 30 seconds in patterns only its AI brain could predict. Kofi had called it a spider web for flies. "Looping feed?" now he muttered. On the security screens above, the hallway froze. A guard mid-yawn, a moth suspended near a lamp. We had 90 seconds. I ducked under the first laser, my back scraping the pedestal of a stolen Maori totem. The plaque's case glinted ahead, its lock keyed to Charles's fingerprints. I pulled out the latex mold I'd lifted from his whiskey glass 2 nights prior, hands steadier than they'd been in the bar. Clink. The case hissed open. 60 seconds, Kofi warned. The real plaque stared up at me, its bronze surface etched with warriors mid-dance, a scene my great-grandmother had described in her journals. For a heartbeat I froze. This is why they burned villages, for this. "Amara!" Kofi's snarl snapped me back. I swapped the plaques, the replica settling into the velvet cushion like it had always belonged. But as I slid the real one into the false bottom of the mop bucket, a shrill beep pierced the silence. A secondary sensor, thin as a hair, stretched across the case's base, new, unmarked on the schematics. "Shit," Kofi spat, keys clattering. "They upgraded. Go, go, go!" The lasers flared crimson, strobing like a siren. Somewhere doors thudded shut. "East corridor clear," Kofi barked. "But you've got 20 seconds before..." A flashlight beam cut across the hall. I flattened behind the totem, clutching the bucket. The guard whistled tunelessly, his boots echoing. Closer, closer. "Distract him," I whispered. "On it." A fire alarm blared, sprinklers drenching the hall. The guard cursed, sprinting toward the sound. "Now!" Kofi ordered. I ran, the plaque clanking against bleach bottles. The exit lights blurred. Kofi counted down in my ear. 5, 4, 3, as I lunged into the service elevator just as the cameras flickered back to life. But the guard stood inside. His eyes dropped to the bucket. "What's that?" Kofi's voice, suddenly British and bored, crackled through my radio. "Code 7 in ceramics. Vandalism reported." The guard scowled, jabbing the button for floor 3. As the doors closed, he glanced at me. "You knew?" First week I rasped, doubling over in a coughing fit. He edged away. The elevator opened to the loading dock. I slipped into the night, rain blending with the sweat on my neck. A motorbike revved nearby. Kofi, helmetless and grinning under a flickering street lamp. "Took you long enough," he said, tossing me a helmet. As we weaved through London's veins, the plaque pressed against my shins, I laughed, a wild, disbelieving sound. Kofi whooped, slicing through a red light. But in my head, the sensor still screamed. They know. They'll always know. The world erupted at dawn. Kofi's leak spread like wildfire. Photos of my field notes. Shipping records tracing the plaque to Charles's offshore shell companies. Even a damning email where he joked about polishing the crown's trophies. By sunrise, Hash Whittaker theft was trending from Abuja to New York. Protesters swarmed the Britannia's steps, their signs screaming, "Return what you stole," in blood-red paint. A teenage girl live-streamed herself hurling a replica Benin Bronze into the Thames, her voice raw with tears. "This is how it feels." Charles resigned by noon, not out of guilt, but PR. His statement was a masterpiece of evasion, regrettable errors in provenance research, personal leave to reflect. I watched it on my phone in Lagos, flanked by Funmi and Kofi in a sweaty internet cafe. "He'll slither back," Kofi muttered. "They always do." But the plaque was already en route to Benin City, escorted by elders who'd kissed its crate like a long-lost child. They invited me to the repatriation ceremony. I wore my father's agbada, its indigo fabric stiff with memory. The village square thrummed with drums. Women in Ankara wrapped balanced baskets of kola nuts on their heads. Children danced with palm fronds, their laughter weaving through the smoke of roasting goat meat. The elder, a wiry man with eyes like cracked obsidian, pressed his forehead to the unveiled plaque. "They tried to bury us," he said, his voice carried by loudspeakers, "but they forgot we are seeds." When he handed me the microphone, my throat closed. I thought of my great-grandmother's journals, of the Smith's bones fertilizing this soil. "This isn't a homecoming," I said. "It's a rebirth, and it's just the start." Later, a girl no older than 10 tugged my sleeve. "Did you really trick the Britannia Museum?" Her brother waved a 3D printed leopard, its resin still smelling of Funmi's workshop. I knelt, blinking hard. "We did. All of us." The Britannia tried to spin the story, a generous restitution, their tweet lied, but Kofi had already unleashed Phase 2, a dark web archive mapping 50,000 looted artifacts, their origins and thefts laid bare. Governments squirmed. Museums panicked. And in a Berlin conference room, a coalition of lawyers, hackers, and elders launched the Global Restitution Collective. I chaired the first meeting. Kofi tuned in via encrypted VPN, his face pixelated. "Don't get comfy, Diallo," he warned. "They'll come for you harder now." They did. Death threats arrived in broken French. A think tank dubbed me the Cultural Taliban. Charles surfaced in Monaco, penning a memoir titled The Custodian, but every attack only fed the movement. One moonless night, I returned to the Niger Delta dig site. The pit where I'd found the plaque was flooded now, rainwater pooling like a mirror. I knelt, pouring a palmful of homecoming libations, gin, honey, delta silt, and whispered the names of those who died in 1897. A rustle behind me. I spun, heart racing. Charles stood silhouetted by the headlights of a Range Rover, his face gaunt, beard unkempt. "You think you've won?" His laugh was a dry rasp. "They'll forget. They always do." I stepped closer, smelling the brandy on his breath. "You're right. Memories fade, but receipts?" I tapped my phone, pulling up the Global Restitution database. 1,243 artifacts reclaimed, 17 museums shamed. "We keep receipts now." He lunged, but I sidestepped, let him stumble into the mud, his polished shoes sinking. "This isn't over," he hissed. I walked away, the stars blazing overhead. It never was. Now, we're everywhere. A Congolese student exposed a Belgian diamond magnate. A Navajo grandma hacked an auction house. And Kofi? He's a ghost in the machine, sabotaging art traffickers with ransomware that demands repatriation, not Bitcoin. But sometimes when I'm alone, I open the encrypted file Kofi sent me, a 10-second clip from the Britannia heist. There I am, frozen mid-sprint, lasers scoring the air like crimson lightning. My face is wild, alive, a far cry from the cautious academic I'd been. I watch it when the threats pile up. when the work feels impossible. Because revolutions aren't won in grand battles. They're stolen back, one relic, one story, one furious breath at a time. Thank you for joining Amara's fight to reclaim history. If you enjoyed The Stolen Legacy, smash that like button and subscribe for more tales of resistance, tech, and justice. Want to wear the revolution? Channel merch is available at memesandseams.com. Search for Rise from the Ashes to snag swag inspired by the Benin Bronzes. Every purchase helps this channel grow. Stay fierce, fam.
Okay, so today we're going deep on something pretty fascinating, are you? The Benin Bronzes. You know, these pieces, they're so much more than just some old relics.
Right. They're really at the heart of, like, this global reckoning that's happening. Who owns history? You know?
Yeah.
Like, what happens when a culture is robbed of its heritage?
Exactly. And the story we're diving into today, this isn't some dry academic thing. This is about one woman, Amara Diallo, and her fight to right a historical wrong. And, like, her connection to this, it's personal. You know, I mean, her father, he was a griot.
Oh, wow, a griot.
Yeah.
So like a traditional storyteller.
Yeah, exactly. Passed down history and culture through generations, right? But there's more. Amara's great-grandmother, she kept these journals, detailed accounts of the British raid on Benin City in 1897. Talk about a family legacy.
Wow, so she's got this direct line to the past, right? These aren't just objects, hers, her family's story, her people's story.
And that story comes alive, you know? During a dig, she's leading in the Niger Delta. Imagine this, right? She's excavating, painstaking work, and suddenly, boom, a Benin plaque right there in the very raid her great-grandmother wrote about.
Can you imagine that feeling?
Yeah.
Unearthing a piece of your own history like that must have been powerful.
Oh, absolutely. But here's where things get interesting. Amara, excited about her find, she reaches out to this guy, Charles Whitaker, big name in the museum world. And later on, they meet up at the Britannia Museum in London. Now, Charles, he's our antagonist here.
Okay, antagonist. What's he like?
Super polished, you know, surrounded by these incredible artifacts. But there's this undercurrent, right? He manipulates Amara, convinces her to donate the plaque anonymously. Of course, he knows exactly where it came from. And then, get this, the plaque, it vanishes from Amara's hotel room. Poof, gone.
Oh, no way. It was a total setup.
Totally. He played her. And this theft, this is where things get really intense. Because Amara, she's not just going to let it slide. She's furious, and she's going to fight back.
I bet. So what does she do? I mean, how do you even start to take on someone like Whitaker?
Well, that's where Kofi Mensah comes in. Amara finds his blog online. It's called, get this, Museums Are Crime Scenes. Bold statement, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Sounds like this guy's not afraid to make some noise. So who is he, this Kofi?
He's a hacker, but not just any hacker. This guy's a legend. And their first online exchange, it's electric. They click, you know, quickly arrange a meetup in Lagos. And when Amara gets there, she sees this basement crammed with servers, glowing screens. It's Kofi's world, his domain.
So like a digital warrior hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, pretty much. But his reasons for fighting, they're personal too. Remember that fire at the Lagos Museum, the one that destroyed all those priceless artifacts? Well, Kofi's grandfather, he lost his carvings in that fire. Years of work, gone. So he gets it, you know? He understands Amara's anger, her drive to get that plaque back.
Wow. Two people brought together by loss, right? But with this shared mission to reclaim what was taken. I love it.
And reclaim it. They will, because they hatched this plan. A heist. And their target. The Britannia Museum. That Benin plaque locked up tight behind their digital guardian system. We're talking facial recognition, biometric locks, AI patrols, laser grids. The works.
Sounds seriously high-tech, like Mission Impossible level security.
You said it! But Kofi, he's confident. Every system has a weakness, and their plan, it's intricate. Kofi, he's the digital mastermind. He'll disable the security system, create a window, and Amara, she'll be on the inside.
Okay, wait. On the inside, as in inside the museum during the heist.
During a big gala, actually. High society, lots of distractions. She's going to swap the real plaque with a replica, a perfect replica.
Hold on, a replica? Where do they even get one of those?
They bring in a sculptor, this woman, Funmi. She works in Ogbomoso, and the detail. It's insane. They 3D scan a similar plaque, print it in resin, age it, dust it with real bronze powder. They even recreate tiny scratches Amara made on the original with her trowel.
No way. That's commitment.
Right. But here's the catch. The AI, it resets every 90 seconds. That's all the time they have. 90 seconds to make the switch. So fake IDs are created. Claire Davies and David, the janitors, and Kofi gives Amara this USB drive. It's shaped like a crucifix, but it'll loop the security cameras and fry the AI for, you guessed it, 90 seconds.
So high-tech meets low-tech, right? Fake IDs,
Yeah.
a janitor's uniform, and this little USB drive that's basically their secret weapon.
It's kind of brilliant.
Totally.
Yeah.
So picture it. The night of the gala. Amara pushing her janitor's cart, blending in with the tuxedos and gowns. Kofi's in her ear, guiding her every move.
I can barely imagine the tension. Like every step could be the one that gives her away.
Right. And then there's the laser grid. Kofi, he's calling out the patterns from his computer, telling her exactly when to step, when to duck. Then the display case. They've got a mold of Charles Whitaker's fingerprint, lifted from his whiskey glass during their first meeting. That sly dog.
Oh, that's just perfect. Using his own fingerprint to steal it back. Love it. And then she sees it, the real plaque. The one from the raid, the one her ancestors created. For a second, she's just transfixed. But Kofi reminds her, time's ticking, the switch is made, smooth and fast. The real plaque's in the mop bucket. But then, beep, a secondary sensor, one they didn't know about.
Uh-oh, game over.
Not yet. Lasers start going crazy, alarms blare, doors slam shut. But Kofi, he doesn't panic. He tells Amara to run, and at the same time, he triggers a fire alarm, sprinklers go off, everyone's freaking out.
That's thinking on your feet, man. Quick.
And Amara, she makes it to the service elevator, but there's a guard inside. Kofi, again, thinks fast, grabs his radio, mimics a bored British accent. Code 7 in ceramics, he says. Vandalism. The guard buys it, and then they're out. Running to Kofi's motorbike, the plaque tucked under Amara's arm, escaping into the night.
Wow, that's a cinematic escape, man. Heart-pounding stuff.
Tell me about it. And the fallout, it's huge. The next morning, Kofi dumps everything online. Amara's research, shipping records, those incriminating emails. Hashtag Whitaker theft goes viral. Protests erupt outside the Britannia.
Talk about turning the tables. From a stolen artifact to a global scandal. The power of information,
You
right?
got it. Whitaker, he resigns, of course, damage control. But the best part, the plaque. It goes back to Benin City. There's this huge ceremony, drumming, dancing. Amara's there wearing her father's Agbada traditional robe. And this elder, he says, they tried to bury us, but they forgot we are seeds. Man, powerful stuff.
Powerful is right. That's more than just a repatriation, you know? It's like a rebirth, a reclaiming of their story.
And it doesn't stop there. Kofi, he sets up this massive online database, 50,000 looted artifacts, all mapped out. Origins, details of their theft, everything puts immense pressure on museums, governments, everyone. The Global Restitution Collective is formed, and Amara, she's right at the forefront.
So it's become this whole movement now, not just about one plaque, but about righting so many wrongs.
Right. And yeah, there are threats. Amara gets them. Charles tries to spin his side of the story. But when they meet again, back in the Niger Delta, it's different this time. Amara, she doesn't have to beg. She has the receipts.
The receipts. Love that. She has the proof, the data. The power dynamic has completely shifted.
And all over the world, people are inspired. A Congolese student takes on a mining company, a Navajo grandma battles an auction house. And Kofi, he's still at it, disrupting art traffickers with his hacking skills.
Like a digital Robin Hood, returning stolen treasures.
Exactly. And you know what? Sometimes Amara watches this 10-second clip of the heist that Kofi sent her. Lasers flashing, her running through the museum, a reminder, you know. This revolution, it's happening one daring act at a time.
A powerful image, one person, defying the odds. It gives me hope, you know?
Me too. So what does this all mean for you, listening right now? This wasn't just a story about a stolen artifact. It's about a movement, a wave of change. And that change, it starts with individuals like you and me.
Think about the power we all have, right?
Yeah.
And all those hidden histories, just waiting to be uncovered. We need to keep asking questions, keep pushing for what's right.
Because sometimes all it takes is one brave act to spark a revolution. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.